In this episode, we delve into the sensual world of spices, and my special guest in studio tells us about macadamia nuts. We're back, so welcome to Shepherd's Sofa, the Mpumalanga edition. There's no doubt that macadamias are delicious, they're crunchy, creamy and moorish. But they aren't just yummy, they're also incredibly good for you. Macadamia nuts are a source of excellent fats that aid your digestive health. In Mpumalanga, not only is a macadamia nut farming growing, but it's absolutely thriving. It has become a very lucrative business, but as always, there's no free lunch. Farming with macadamia requires a large financial input, hard work and patience. My guest today is an expert in understanding what macadamias are and how to preserve them. Author and electrical engineer, Darren Bungay. Welcome to the sofa.
Thank you, Sarit.
Tell me, how did you end up with macadamias from an engineering background?
I spent my time in Zimbabwe and there was a huge exodus of skills from at that time, and I became quite busy in helping farmers with tea and coffee and tobacco and dairy in Zimbabwe. And macadamias I started with macadamias actually in 1981. I put the first macadamia irrigation system in 1981. But it wasn't until I came to South Africa where I joined the Eskom Agricultural Division. I was with Eskom for 21 years. And macadamias had just really started, and I started helping farmers get going. It was an unknown crop in those years. But my background was, by that time, tea, coffee, understanding all of those things. I started to move into the field of thermodynamics, which is about how to dry products and what is necessary to cure products. And water damages everything if you leave it in there. And macadamias come off the tree very wet. They had to be dried. I don't like using the word dried. We use curing. Drying is what you do in your tumble dryer. Curing is what you do when you want a controlled thing. And macadamias are extremely valuable nut. They need to be preserved. I call them a lettuce in a hard shell. And most farmers will try to handle macadamias in a way that is convenient for them. But I have taught farmers and teach farmers to treat macadamias the way the macadamias need to be treated. And that's how we preserve the quality, by looking at what is actually necessary to keep macadamias safe for the period of time that they need to be held until they're sold.
It seems that you're very, very passionate about macadamias. You also wrote this book. Why macadamias?
I did a lot of research on macadamias and I didn't want the information to get lost, so I was storing it all the time. And then there's an awful lot of new growers. The industry has grown tremendously. South Africa is now the largest producer of macadamias in the world.
You're not kidding me.
Yes. Yeah, we've just had the 9th International Macadamia Symposium down in Ballito. The very first one, international symposium, was held in Nelspruit in 1999. And since then, I've accumulated, and the Australians have had me there backwards and forwards. And I presented a lot of courses and training on the preservation of macadamias. And they asked me to give this information more on paper. And that was the first book, and then it just grew into that book. The macadamia nut is actually an Australian nut.
Okay.
But in the years gone by, they didn't know what to do with it. The original Aboriginal people called it a bush nut and they ate it. But the Hawaiians came and fetched the tree because it made a very nice windbreak for their sugar cane. And then they started developing the macadamia nut, and it became the Hawaiian nut and selling it into America. And then the Australians realized they were losing out on something, and they said it's our nut, and then they started producing it about some 20 years before us. Macadamias only make, if you put all the nuts together, walnuts, pistachios, almonds, all the nuts, macadamia nuts only make up about 1.3% of the nut basket of the world. And now South Africa has become the biggest producer, from the north to the south, right down from the north, right up in Limpopo down to the Cape. We are now growing nuts everywhere. We have more than almost double the plantings and production that the nearest other country has, which is Australia.
And tonnage-wise, do you have it out of, just on the top of your head?
South Africa produces about 80,000 tons a season.
Sure, that's quite a bit. That's tremendous.
It's a very high-value nut. in the nuts world, it's at the pinnacle. It's the highest value nut.
So in the Maslow hierarchy.
It's like the Maslow hierarchy. Yeah, you can pay at the moment in some places, it's over 600 Rand a kilogram.
Sure, that's quite expensive.
So, yeah.
What's quite perturbing, perhaps, if I may use that word, is how well, for instance, the avocado industry has been positioned in terms of commercial positioning and also processing of that. Why is macadamia lacking behind in terms of oil and other products?
It's just because it's so new. Avocados and citrus have been around for a very long time. The industries are very well established. Oil and value-added products are very important, and I've been pushing for them, but we still got a lot of nuts to sell at the moment, and the demand is high. South Africans don't buy macadamia nuts readily because they are so expensive, but the rest of the world does afford them, and most of our nuts go overseas.
Tell me, you use sound science and engineering principles when you're doing the preserving or what did you say? The
curing.
The curing of the nut. Talk to us about that.
Curing is an essential part of processing any food product. If you over-dry macadamia, it becomes brittle and breaks into small pieces. If you don't dry it far enough, it will go moldy and rot, and it will stay in the shell when you crack it. So it has to be cured or dried evenly right through. So to get it cured, you have to do it uniformly right throughout. You can't have some dry and some wet and some over-dry going into a processor. And part of the preservation process is to get all the water out so that there's no interaction with water and enzyme composting that takes place with macadamias or any fruit that has water with it for a long time. Once we've done that and we've removed the water and removed enough water, the nut becomes safe enough to store for a longer period.
Darren, thank you so much for joining us on the sofa. It's rare that I find someone so knowledgeable, and I'm sure I would be able to speak hours with you about this project and about macadamias. Thank you for joining us today on the sofa.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
And now we enter the enticing and seductive world of spices. The use of spices go back more than 2,500 years and have, without a doubt, changed our cooking. What would potjiekos biltong be, or a braai, without spices? Not to mention their health benefits. So let's meet Arthur Sappel, who has a fascination and love of spices.
As a horticulturist, I've been involved with subtropical fruit for many years. I worked for Agricultural Research Council, and I was program manager for a breeding program in subtropical fruit. And I retired at the end of November. But I realized before retirement that I had to do something that I can do after retirement to keep myself busy. And this was born out of a bag of salt that somebody gave us. And we thought, what can we do with that bag of salt? And my sister in the Cape sent me some pictures of salts and things that was sold down there. And we said, okay, well, we've got a range of indigenous plants in the Lowveld, and we should do something with it. And so we combined the indigenous herbs and normal other herbs as well with the salts, and that's where the spiced salts come from. Our journey started with a turmeric. And if people don't know what a turmeric looks like, some people confuses it with ginger, but it's very different in the sense that it gives that yellow color to rice, for instance, if you use it like that. And actually during the COVID period, turmeric was very popular. I had people even as far as Port Elizabeth ordering plants or product from me because it's got an anti-inflammatory action. After the turmeric, we started with a rosemary wine salt. We inherited the bag of Kalahari rock salt, which was standing in our garage for a while, and we decided, what can we do with that? And we came up with the idea of soaking the salt in red wine, and then adding rosemary to it and a little bit of garlic, and you've got a nice product for meats, lamb. It's just fabulous. After that, I started with the citrus range. We used oranges, I used lemons and limes, and we zest them, and in combination with various herbs like marjoram or thyme and as well as rosemary and Greek basil. We make the mixers, and then it developed in a totally new range. And after using the fruit, after zesting it, we actually then juice it. And that gave us the last range that we've got is the cordials. And the last product that we now starting to make is the lemongrass cordial. We took a lot of lemongrass, we boiled it, we get the flavorants out of it. We make a product that's very nice if you use it with sparkling water, but it's a concentrate, so you use very little of it, and it's a very nice, refreshing drink. The various indigenous plants that we use, like the African ginger, that gives it a slightly gingery taste, but it's more woody sort of. It's not like the ginger that you buy in the shops. And also the wild garlic is adding to the garlicky taste, but it's not normal garlic taste. It's just slightly different. People's got to taste it to actually experience it. And that was the whole idea of combining these different spices and herbs and so on with salts. And I'm using Kalahari rock salt. Because we're not using the sea salt, because people are often worried about the microplastics in the sea salt. So I'm sourcing only Kalahari rock salt for my salts, and then we make the various mixes with it.
I can just smell those gorgeous spices. That's all for now. We look forward to your company next time. Goodbye.